What's going on, guys? Episode 39, Discipline to Win. We are going to do a part two today on how to be the best closer you can be. Part one, we talked about sales process, a little bit of psychology of sales. So definitely go check that out if you haven't checked it out already. But today, we're going to talk about truly closing business. So stay tuned. Going to be a great episode. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, we're going to get into it. So, Nick, we always are talking about, especially with our advisors, how are we able to close business at our higher level? And no matter what our percentage is, no matter how good are we getting, there's always room for improvement
For sure.
because very rarely are you ever going to have a 100% close rate. Honestly, if you're getting in front of enough people, you probably aren't going to have a 100% close rate. But how specifically with you and when we talk to our advisors, how are we talking to them of how do we continue to increase that close rate percentage, and what are some of the qualities that we instill in them to continue to make them better closers?
For sure. We hit on a little bit in our first part one. It starts the biggest thing with confidence, and it's not necessarily asking for the close. It's literally just moving right into the close. So, like we talked in part one about the whole process, figuring out what the client's needs are, what their problems are, and then presenting your solutions to that problem. But it is not your job to present the solutions and then say, hey, John, how does that sound?
Mm-hmm.
What else do you need to think about? It is your job to prevent those solutions and then be able to transition into implementation of those solutions. There doesn't need to be proposals, quotings, additional meetings or anything like that. Like a true closer can seamlessly move from presenting the solutions to right into logistically how are we going to implement that. And because truly, if you do it correctly, the customer is never going to even realize that it's part of a sales process. And that doesn't mean that it's like some type of bait and switch or anything like that. That's literally just being the subject matter expert in whatever solutions or products you're providing and being able to implement them without making it this big drawn out decision making process to the client. Because if you're an effective closer, like in your whole presentation, you're addressing the pros of whatever this is, you're addressing the cons of whatever this is, you're addressing like, hey, here is the two other options that exist, here's why this is right for your individual situation, we're going to start implementing this today by doing X, Y, and Z, and you go right into the logistics of actually making it all happen. And that is essentially the biggest way of how to do it. And then it is going to be natural for, whoa, what about this? And objections, questions, I need to go think about, or just like the biggest objection, which is just like, hey, like thought about it, do not want this, I'm going with somebody else. And the biggest recommendation I always give everybody is like, at the end of the day, do not be afraid to bet on yourself and like take some type of wild action to solve it. And it doesn't mean like being desperate. It's just if you truly are confident in what you're doing and the solutions you're offering, you know that the client is getting a lesser product or a lesser service going somewhere else. You say this all the time, Nick, to our advisors and employees of like, it's not okay for a customer to go and choose somebody else over us because we know that they're going to get worse service, worse products, worse solutions. Mm-hmm. So like we are doing the client a disservice if we don't go the extra mile to be able to somehow figure out the proper way to communicate to them that it is the best possible solution for them. And
Mm-hmm.
that is closing. Like,
Yeah.
you tell a client like, hey, this is what we're doing, sound good? The client's like, yep, you're order taking. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's closing is being able to overcome multiple objections and then get the entire thing implemented. And the biggest close of my life is still us being able to get a deal done in the Washington, D.C. market when we did that large acquisition. And we were sitting together at a picnic when the business straight up called me and said, hey, we're not going with your firm. I didn't say, oh, thanks so much, like wish you the best of luck. I knew that nobody else was going to be able to do it the way we could. So I said, you clearly just must not know enough about us, what we bring to the table. And I did whatever I had to do on the phone to get one more meeting. And then I spent 3 days building out a giant packet, just betting on myself. I'm like, I'm going to stack myself to the top of the list, compare myself to whoever it is I'm being stacked up against, and just being willing to have the confidence that, we can go in there and do the better job. And went in there and turned that no to closing that deal. And that was a pivotal moment to get our firm to the step that it's at today. So that, and that was an $11 million deal. So somebody that's at the simplest level trying to sell somebody an $8,000 roof, and the person tells them, no, we're going to go to this other person. If you go back, show up the next day and be like, look, like, I totally respect that you want a different direction, but I want to make sure that you have all the information because I know we have the best product. That person's probably going to respect the hell out of you for taking because initiative is a commodity in 2025. If they're dealing with someone that's taking the initiative, going the extra mile, bets in their self, clearly believes and is passionate in what they're doing, I feel like that's enough to win you the business damn near half the time of just displaying your passion, your care, your energy. Like, people can read like if you're genuine or not a mile away versus if you're not genuine and you don't believe in what you're doing and what you have passion in. So I would say that's the biggest thing is, if all else fails, being willing to suck up the self pride and just put it all on the line, bet on yourself at the end of the day, and just like literally show up, get on the phone, is whatever you got to do to get in front of that person without being desperate but just coming at it from a standpoint of like, I'm worried about you and your future if you do not choose us for whatever it is, because we know that nobody else can work like we can. Nobody else can deliver like us. So biggest thing is just confidence and the self-belief that you can get it done no matter what, and truly believe in your heart of hearts that there's nobody better than you. And if you look in the mirror and you don't think that, that's okay too, because now you can say, okay, if someone might be better off with somebody else, identify your weak spots and then go back to the grindstone and improve on those areas until you are the best. Like, that's something that like you look at every day, is how do we get all of our advisors the best tools, like as efficient as possible, the best things available to them to arm them all with all the tools they need to be the most dangerous person out there.
Yeah. And I think you have to be aware of those tools, especially when you're sitting in a closing meeting and knowing what you have to your disposal, because always in a perfect world, you're able to have a meeting with a client and you've done a great job of understanding their objections, understanding their needs and wants, and do exactly what you talked about: provide the solution, move right to the solution, implement that solution.
Right.
Sometimes and I know a lot of people out there are probably going to say, well, they always say I have to think about it. Obviously, that's the most common objection ever. The number one thing that I would give anybody who is dealing with that objection all the time is never leave a meeting, especially a closing meeting, if you are not able to get that client or that prospect to commit to whatever your solution is right there, then and there. It's a big decision. Let's say it's a multi-million-dollar decision, or they're looking to do a $50,000 renovation to their backyard. Let's say you're a contractor, and it is a really big decision for that prospect. Never leave a meeting without a next step action item. The worst possible thing that you can do in sales, and the way that you will close no business, is you say the words, yeah, don't worry, I'm going to follow up with do a follow-up call, or I'm going to follow up with an email to you.
Dead.
You're smoked, because that literally is just, you're basically accepting that objection, and you're allowing them, again, your order taking, you're allowing them to dictate the pace in which your sales process goes, which you absolutely cannot do. At the end of the day, again, we talked about in the last episode, you have that little bit of chip on your shoulder. This is your process. This is the way that you close business. You know that if that client were to go somewhere else, they are going to get less service. It is a disservice to them if they go to somebody else. So and if you truly believe in what you do, that it is your job for them to truly understand what they are buying, what they are purchasing, what they are getting, and you know that they have a need for it, and to provide them with that solution is what your job is as a salesman. So if you are dealing, and I know a lot of people do, with, hey, I need some time to think about it. Hey, I need to talk this over with the wife. Number one, at the beginning, there should never be you should never not have a next step. And to be honest, in person always. Now, if you're a virtual salesperson and you're doing business across the country, whatever, I would definitely encourage getting on Zoom. The follow-up phone call does not work. Even follow-up Zoom, we don't like to do it at all. It's always follow-up in-person meeting, preferably in their home. Because if you can get somebody to meet inside of their home, and you can sit at their kitchen table and they bring you a drink, and you're going through the product array and you know exactly what they want, and you're able to get, hey, come over and show this to you, and you scoot up next to them and you're acting like a friend and you're truly intensive. You're not just sitting across from them with a PowerPoint slide behind you and you're pointing to stuff like that. You're truly like, hey, like, look at this.
You're
like,
connected.
You're painting the vision too. Like if we go back to let's say the backyard example, you're a contractor, you're putting a pool in and doing a landscape, and hey, let's look at this. Look at your landscape. Like, look at this. Imagine this. We're going to have this here. This is going to be here. You're going to have all this leveled out. You're going to have this beautiful pool in here. Our team's going to come in. We're going to do this in X amount of time. We're going to do this. The cleanup's going to look like this, and paint the picture for them.
Yep.
That's truly what's going to drive them to a decision, because going through numbers, going through a proposal sheet, going through a slideshow of what you're going to, in a very informal way, you're really going to struggle. And it's going to be very easy for that prospect across the table to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to do this right now, or maybe now's not the right time, or I'm going to go with this other guy. When you are able to establish true trust with your prospect, and they see in your eyes the energy and the passion that you believe, more often than not, no matter what it is, or no matter what you are selling to them, they're going to go with you purely based off of belief of like, this person is probably not going to mess this up because they care so much. Like, just looking this person in the eye, I know they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that this turns out the way that I want it to turn out. So, and I think, and I went a couple of different directions from the beginning, but number one, like, you're not leaving the meeting without another action item, like number one. And then number two, when you are getting those objections, again, it's your job to truly understand what that objection means. If someone says, I need to talk to my wife, like, do they really need to talk to their wife? Or is this a decision that they would make together? And if that's the case, and if it's truly a decision that they would make together and she's not available, then your next step should be with the wife. Then it should be like, hey, we have both the decision makers here. Let's get everyone together. Let's make a decision together. Or if it's like, hey, I need some time to figure this out. Okay, what exactly is that time based off of? Is this a money problem? Is this a time because you have another purchase coming up? Is this a time because you just don't want to make a decision right now and you're kind of pushing it off, because inherently people always want to procrastinate on decisions to make? So those two aspects, I think, are the most important, to be completely honest. And it doesn't really matter who you're selling to, but
and I think another thing is that some people think that you have to be pushy to close somebody. There's a way to establish yourself that you are a professional that is efficient and highly motivated and energetic without being pushy. If you're the same way, and I think that comes back to the beginning of the whole sales process. If you're coming in day one at 110%, you're extremely prepared, you're extremely methodical, you have an automated process that you're following. It's not pushy. It's just your process. And when you display yourself that you are the subject matter expert, and the client understands that this is the way that you operate and the way you do things, when you're talking them through the timeline of your whole process from day one, I think that's a way you can establish yourself. Like, you're not being like too pushy or anything like that. You're literally just like, hey, this is the way this works. Like, this is my process. Like, like, I set this expectation in day one. Like, I'm obviously helping as many people as I humanly can, and like, I can't serve you if we're not getting started by this point. I don't think that's being pushy. If you from day one set that standard and that bar of how you work, people are just going to know, like, that's what it's like to do business with you. It's extremely professional. It's extremely efficient. So I think that's important to do as well.
And I think too, anytime whenever I'm sitting across the table from somebody, and you could tell there's some people, no doubt, that are easier sales than others. There's some people who are like, they purely just want your product, and sometimes they don't even really care about you as much. They're just like, you have access to this product. I need this product. No doubt. Okay, those are walk in the parks. That's not true closing. That's literally, you're just like connecting someone with a service or product. But when you get across the table from someone who's like really hesitant, or they really have a lot of objection handling, another thing that I would definitely tell people, if you're struggling with that, or if someone's a little bit standoffish, is find ways for them to say yes. So find things in your product delivery that's like, hey, John, does it even make sense for you? And he's going to say, it does make sense for me. Okay. So we went through these different price structures. Like, does this price structure make sense for you? Yeah, that would be a price structure. And continue to compound the yeses when you're inside of it. And we do it all the time when it's like, when we're doing a business development, it's like, hey, like, would this service help maximize your practice? Hey, would adding this software resource or this technology or this automation process, would that enhance your practice in any way, shape, or form? Yes, yes, it would. Yes, it would. And then you continue to compound these yeses, and then eventually it like naturally leads yourself into that process of like, okay, like
Right.
we've solved all the problems, we've said yes to everything. There's nothing else outstanding. Like we can go ahead and move forward with implementation. So again, if you feel like you're stuck, because it's very hard sometimes for people, especially beginners, when they get that first objection, they get stuck and they kind of freeze up
Right.
and they're like, oh my gosh, like what do I do? Or like, oh yeah,
And
no
then
worries. Like,
and then it exposes.
yeah. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, don't worry. Like I'll just give you a follow-up call in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like you're smoked. Like
Yeah.
10 guys have said that to him already. So like if you could just go back to the basics of like, okay, like let's go like you were here in the sales process. Let's go the whole way back to the beginning. And then let's just start stacking some yeses, stack some yeses, stack some yeses. Then eventually get to the point where the prospect, again, they agree with themselves and they're like, well, this is a no-brainer. Like they've answered all my questions. Everything has been solved for me. Like
Yep.
I need to move forward with this process and get it implemented. So that's something that I've found personally that has worked, and I think works pretty much across the board, no matter what you're really dealing with, to continue to advance the sale. Because just like everything else in life, especially in business, the sales is again, it's a time in the game. Like it is literally, if you can just continue to advance the sale, if you can continue to even get to the next meeting, or you can continue to get to the next part of whatever your implementation process is, or whatever your presentation process is, that is what's going to keep you in the game, and that is what's going to allow you to potentially close your sale.
For sure. Yeah. Any questions, thoughts about our process, shoot us to them, DM us, and stay tuned for more information on how to be disciplined and how to win in business.